Everybody is getting their food. Just want to say thank you for coming in today. With Megan Camp being next week and having an off week on Education Tuesday, we wanted to make sure that we had a jam-packed filled day with value. So just to give you a quick run of how today is going to go. Joe is going to teach until about 1:40 on the business planning to get you back on track for the rest of this year. And then you can have a quick break. If you'd like to come back at 2, he's actually going to use our room as his classroom. So he also leads a national group coaching call for real estate agents. So we're welcome to participate in that for free today. So you're welcome to come back at 2 after you take a quick leg stretch, get the blood flowing, so that way you can handle the rest of the afternoon. And I'd like to introduce our lunch sponsor and speaker sponsor today, our friend from S&T. Thanks to Jason Bycott for teaming up that relationship. So come on up. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Jim Gaughan. I'm the Vice President of Private Banking for South Central Pennsylvania. So I serve the entire market. Jennifer Lingle, she's the Vice President of Business Banking. She's one of my colleagues here in Central PA. We're going to tell you a little bit about the bank. Going to tell you a little bit about what I do, and then Jen will discuss some possible options for financing for some investment real estate too as well. So our bank, S&T Bank, is a Pennsylvania state bank. So we are based in Indiana, Pennsylvania. We're 122 years old. And one of the things we pride ourselves in is giving back to the community. And this is one of the ways we can do this. We get out, we want to be able to make sure that we promote and provide some valuable information, for our service partners in the community to help service better. One of the things about our organization, about 3 years ago, we had a new CEO that took over. His name was Chris McComish. Chris came in and his primary focus was really get back to the community and people first. So we pride ourselves in banking the same way. And as a result, in Q2 of this year, we just had our earnings. We had a $34.4 million net profit. And some of the things that we do very well. We do with investment real estate. Like I said, Jennifer is an expert. She's been with the company for a number of years, has great relationships with Jason and some other, realtors here at Keller Williams. That's why I wanted to come out. Tell you a little bit about private banking, type of clientele that I look for. I look for clients that have at least $750,000 investable assets, are either a commercial business relationship with us or have a net worth of $3 million. So with that, I'm gonna turn it over to Jen. Jen will tell you a little bit about the business banking and some of the things that, she handles too as well. But thank you.
Hi, everyone. I know I've have a few familiar faces in here. I've been out. Jason has invited me to some of the investment real estate classes that you have had in the past. So I just wanted to introduce myself, come back out. I'm the business banker in the Camp Hill, Harrisburg market. So I can pretty much go anywhere, Perry County, Dauphin County, Cumberland County, you name it. I'm very flexible. Investment real estate is really what is my main focus. So I know a lot of you, even yourselves, might be doing investment real estate personally, or you have clients that are looking for investment properties. Just to kind of give a little bit of background, we can go up to 80% loan to value on our purchases. We can also do refinances and cash out. We can go up to 75% loan to value on that. I know things have been changing a lot in the banking industry in the past year or so. Things have been tightening up. I don't know if you've heard from many bankers, it's all about deposits lately, but we are still lending, which is something that we really want to get across to everybody. Because I know some other banks are kind of putting their stop to their lending, but we are not. I kind of wanted this to be an interactive, so if you have any questions about what type of investment real estate, we can do anything from single family homes, we can do multifamily, we can do mixed use, which it could be part personal, it could be part commercial, I could do commercial. So what do you guys deal with? Are you mainly personal single family properties, or what is your clientele looking for at this point?
Some multis.
Multis, are you finding that there's much on the market?
There's not much.
Okay, that's been what a lot of people have been running into, is there's just no available properties, so, I deal with a lot of investment real estate, people, and they will actually just come to me and say, hey, do you know any people that are looking for this? And instead of kind of making it public, so if you know a particular type of investment property that your client's looking for, please feel free to reach out to me and I can let you know if I have any clients that are looking to sell, in the near future or even presently. I'd be more than happy to take a look at that.
That'd be wonderful.
Yes, please. So I'm gonna ask about, new construction commercial loans.
We do new construction. Typically, the minimum amount for our loan amounts is at least 100,000. So, I mean, that can be from the ground up, or it can be taking an existing building and then kind of restructuring it inside. So we can do both. Typically with a new build, we do need to have it on actual land that already has the electric, already has, it can't be raw land. So just to kind of, give you that detail. Because a lot of people will come to me with raw land, and unfortunately, there's not much we can do with that. Does anybody have any other questions?
Did we eat too many carbs?
I might know.
Good food, thanks for the food.
Yes, absolutely.
Do you also do residential financing or mainly just commercial and?
We do residential.
Okay,
We do have our own mortgage area, but I know Jeremy McMichael sits out of here and helps a lot of you, so I don't wanna step on any toes.
Okay.
So I really enjoy Jeremy, so,
Yeah,
but yes, we do.
gotcha.
Well, some of the things we also offer is, if you have an individual that might be looking for a second home, maybe out in the market, we can pull equity out of the property too. So my MLS ID number is 8766. So I'm actually a licensed mortgage analyst myself. But we are running promos on the home equity. This goes for everyone in the room too. So if you have a home and you like to use equity, I can always, get you squared away. Right now, we're running promotional rate at 3.99 for 6 months. Then after that, any, cost basis sort of $50,000 to be prime minus 76 basis points. So right now we're running a promo. As long as we can do a desktop valuation on a home equity loan, we're waiving all charges.
And right now, we're currently not lending outside of our market and on my side of things. And what that means is if you have a client that wants to purchase an investment property in Florida, we have workarounds for that where Jim comes into play there with the private banking. Because if they qualify for private banking, Jim can actually finance out of the market.
Yeah, right now, I think in Florida, I'm doing about $8 million in financing. So there are some options. And I know some of the lenders that are currently right now, they're staying within their footprint. You see that. What's nice here, having somebody in-house, you have a lot more flexibility. So there are some workarounds, but you're gonna be catering to higher net worth clients, for those.
If later you have any questions that you think of, I have my business cards, Jim's business cards in the back, so please feel free. You can just even bounce ideas off of me. If you want to see if a project cash flows, that is the most important thing. We base everything off of the actual project. So we do look at global, but it's mainly the actual project has to cash flow. So if you want to figure out if something does, or if you need to know what the rents need to be increased to, I can be your sounding board. I can run numbers for you at no cost, or, just let me know.
I'll just add, I remember you had this conversation with me before, Jen, that it's not always just about numbers, that you are also very relationship based and what's this person's story and their vision. So if you have a client that you need that level of service for, Jen's definitely the person that you want to be talking to. And then secondly, I know Jason trusts a lot of his investment business. He couldn't make it here today, but I know that he highly recommends working with S&T for his investments.
I don't see some.
We
So,
do
yeah,
too.
the nice thing is I can pick up the phone and call my underwriter and explain the backstory to my customer, and it really makes a big difference. So, as long as I understand the whole picture and what the story is behind it, sometimes not everything's cookie cutter. I have that capability of picking up the phone and explaining why I believe this deal is going to work. And I have that relationship with the underwriters that they trust in what I have to say, which is really nice that a lot of bigger banks, you're not even allowed to contact your underwriter.
And I could speak a little bit on this too as well. You know, one of the things we really wanted to focus on starting last year in 2023 and into 24 is really quality credit and quality assets under management. So in Q2, we had one of the lowest default rates in the history of our bank. So we were at negative 0.02% of our entire portfolio. So when you're talking about a bank about 9 billion in assets, and I think we defaulted maybe 400,000. So what we're looking at is quality assets. So working with Jen can actually walk through a lot of these performance for you and really go through the projections and help you out. You know, so she helps a lot of my clients. That's why, you know, we wanted to do this together.
So you're portfolioing these, you're not selling these to Fannie Freddie?
We keep them all in house.
Keep them all in-house.
We do.
That makes a huge difference.
Yeah, we do. And a lot of mine are all repeat existing clients that just keep coming back.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we keep everything in-house. Well, thank you all so much for having us. I hope you're enjoying your food. There's plenty more out there, so don't be shy. Go back for seconds and thirds, because I'm not gonna be taking it all.
Thank you
Yeah,
so
thank you
much.
so much.
Okay. Is everybody awake?
Yeah.
Like mac and cheese is not what I wanna see before I speak. I love it, and also it's like, oh man. So, my name's Joe Cipollini. I took the 37-minute drive up from York, and I think a slide picture on it, it's always awkward, but I'm actually gonna introduce myself, which I don't do all that often, because normally I speak to friends and family. So, but we're gonna talk today about mid-year checkup, right? And it's a little late, like full disclosure, right? Like July 1 was mid-year, and here we are, it's August 1. Happy birthday to me and Brittany. And so we're gonna talk about this from a perspective of, first of all, it's never too late to have an absolutely brutally honest conversation with yourself about where you are. Your current reality is absolutely critical to being able to make decisions about what you need to do. And we're gonna talk a lot. I didn't erase this board on purpose. Brittany, is that your handwriting up there?
Yes.
Cool. Because that is the foundation for goal setting. Like, I was a max coach for about 3 years. And I will tell you that anybody can write whatever goals they want. Their commitment to do the work and the way they spend their time are the only thing that matters from that point forward, right? You have exactly the same number of minutes in your day as Elon Musk does. You have exactly the same number of hours as Warren Buffett. What is the difference? It's how you spend your time, who you surround yourself with, what you put into your brain, and the decisive actions that you take from the time you wake up to the time you go to bed, right? I'm not saying that we all have the, you know, privileges of some of everything that they have, right? Elon did have a little bit of seed capital. Warren didn't, by the way. And it's how you choose to invest your time, right? And in doing that in accordance with the goals that you have. So when I look over here and I see things like committing to the 80-20 principle and the way that you spend your time, right? It's like, yeah, that's it. I mean, if you just, the book, The One Thing, right? We're gonna talk about that a lot today. But if you just made a decision that from this point to the end of the year, there was one behavior that you were gonna do every single day, completely non-negotiable, and that was gonna be the difference maker for you, then that might change the entire trajectory, not just of this year, but next year and potentially your career, right? So we're gonna talk about those things. We're gonna talk about being accountable. Because accountability gets weaponized a lot. And it usually gets weaponized when we don't like where we are. Like, oh, now I'm gonna hold it accountable. Well, accountability is simply just measuring what you committed to do. And so if you're not where you wanna be, Which is why I said that the mid-year checkup here in August is not, there's no fault in it. It's just about, it's just about measuring where you are right now. That's ultimately accountability. Today's accountability, right? It's like, are you in love with where you are right now, or are you not? If you are, great. Do you have more juice to squeeze? And if you are not, what are you gonna wake up tomorrow and do differently? Period. That's it. So we're gonna talk about that. We're gonna walk through some exercises that I think will probably make you feel a little squeamish in your tummy. And we're going to really talk about the personal side of things, because as I said, I was a max coach. And I watched people succeed to extraordinary levels, people doubling their business year over year, 2-3 years in a row. People, you know, I was coaching at $1.5 billion worth of production in 1 year. And like, so big teams, people, like I coached one person who started as a buyer's agent. I coached her rainmaker and her as a buyer's agent. She bought the team from her rainmaker. And now they're one of the #1 teams in Colorado. And so you can literally do whatever you choose to do as long as you commit to doing it. And we're gonna talk about that. But one thing that I learned in coaching people at all different levels of production was, the other thing was that not everybody stayed in coaching and not everybody succeeded. And the difference was not what they knew, it was what they were committed to do. We all have access to pretty much the same information, the information highway of the internet and all, and everything we have in the KW ecosystem. Really, we are heads above other organizations, just to be honest, and your leadership team is top notch. And yet, if you're not attached to something that will make you do the things that suck in the morning when you don't want to do them, I'll see you next year and you're not gonna love where you are. That's the reality, right? So like a mid-year checkup, again, is gonna be about being honest with that. So that's what we're gonna do. We are gonna dive into some, like I said, some personal things, because the personal drivers are going to be the things that make you wake up and do the things that you don't want to do. I've heard many times that it's about money or financials, and oftentimes, and there's a great book, I can add like 40 to the book recommendations. I'm a total book nerd.
I love it.
But The Psychology of Money by Morgan Housel. The reality is, right, it shows up as an economic leading indicator. People say, I wanna make more money, I wanna be successful financially. If you read that book, what it will tell you is that is deep underlying reasoning behind it. And when you personalize your relationship with money, it changes the way that you behave. And so I'm gonna stick to my guns that today we're gonna talk a lot about personal stuff, because that is where the magic happens. Is that cool?
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. I promised it. There's that slide. So who am I? So yes, I did drive up from New York. I'm speaking on stage there at Collective Genius. So I'm an OP actually in Pittsburgh. Just talking to Drew. I'll be waking up at 5 o'clock in the morning on Friday and being at the morning huddle in Pittsburgh. And then driving home to see my daughter. And so an OP in the KW ecosystem. I'm also pretty much out of production, to be honest. I'm under contract on 2 deals right now, which is the most I've been under contract on in a year and a half. I was in charge with my business partner, Ryan Miller, who's the OP TL in York. He and I built a retail team, not nearly as in model as Dave Hook, but you know, we scrounged together 150 units a year. And I became a MAPS coach on the tail end of that production side. That was in a year of 2019 going into 2020. I don't know if you all remember that year, but on a random Thursday, like we were put on pause, and I was like, cool, I'm gonna build my coaching roster starting today. And so I was just being onboarded into MAPS at that time. I had like 5 clients. By the end of the COVID lockdown, I had 16 clients. And I was like, cool, now I'm too busy to go back into production. So I pretty much stayed out. I ended up being recruited to be the chief sales officer for a large investment group. So one of the largest residential investment groups in the country is actually down in York. It's Integrity First Home Buyers. And so I was recruited to be the chief sales officer because I was MAPS coaching their retail team. And I was like, hey, you have problems, but they're not just in the retail team. And so he was like, okay, come on board and fix it. I then, moved into the chief learning officer, which is this super random title that essentially means I'm in charge of people development. We look at it as, human capital, right? So people, you are all human capital to some extent of your own business. And, teaching things that you don't know and holding you accountable to activities. So that's essentially what the chief learning officer does. So that's what I spend my time doing. That's why at 2 o'clock I'll be on a national call, because what we figured out was that people were super underprepared for the market that we're in right now from a skills perspective. And I mean like dramatically underprepared. And language, there's a reason why Phil Jones is like really in the KW ecosystem right now. I don't know if you guys have paid attention to that. He is one of the most talented at language and persuasion and the skills of sales in relation to language. If you are not paying attention to what he is talking about, you are missing a huge opportunity. KW is really smart to have him in this ecosystem right now. I look at like EXP, they like got Grant Cardone, and I'm like, y'all can have him. We have Phil Jones, he wrote the book Exactly What to Say, which can also go up there. And Phil Jones is great, and we're gonna talk about some of that stuff. So at 2 o'clock, that's what that call is about, sales skills. We now, essentially, people were asking us, what do you guys do to be outperforming the market in an incredible level? To put it in perspective, we bought 17 homes last week. And we set 90 appointments last week as a team. So our sales funnel and skills are at a pretty quick level. So all that was me. So who set goals coming into this year? Okay, so I'm gonna change that question. Who wrote their goals down and set them on purpose? That's not as many, it's okay, all right. How are you doing?
I'm down like 15%
From your goals or from last year?
from my goals.
Okay.
I'm at 62%
Okay.
of my goal this year,
Your annualized goal.
but my dollar volume has gone up so much that we've hit last year's production dollar volume. And my goal is pretty aggressive, like 31 units.
Okay. All right. We'll talk about that. Units versus volume, scary little trap you're in.
Yeah.
Okay, anybody else? How are you doing? How are we doing? Yeah,
3% off from where I need to be.
year to date.
Yes.
Cool. Anybody else?
5%.
5%. Cool. So what goals did you set? Like, what are we talking about? 5% off of what?
Units and dollar.
Units and volume, okay? Same. What else?
Volume.
Your volume that you were talking about, okay. Yours is units volume. Okay. So I wrote, are you 66% of the way to complete? How did I get that math?
Well, here.
Have a year, we're at a year.
But it's August.
Is it because of like your closings that are pending right now or?
Because what?
December doesn't count.
That's right. If you want to generate money for 2024, you need to have it essentially coming to your pocket by November 15th. Uh-oh. I just took 40 days away from you guys, right? And so we're gonna talk about like the leading measures and the lagging measures. By the way, and one thing I talked about with Brittany was like, we almost could be business planning for 2025 right now. Like the Loken team down in Houston, they do their 2020, they'll do their next year's business plan. Now they have a 5-year strategic plan. They're a piece of psychopath. But they start their following year business plan, goal setting in July. They are executing on that next year's activities right now. Like going into October, they need to be pacing at that. Because the reality is, anybody know what the life cycle, like the cash life cycle of a lead is for you? That's a real technical thing to think about. Think about it. What's the cash life cycle of a lead for you? The moment somebody says, I wanna sell my house, when will you receive a paycheck?
30 to 60 days.
False.
90 at least.
Probably, yes, somewhere between 90 and 100 days. From the time you hear intention to sell till the time the paycheck arrives. And we often don't think about that, and we get like lulled into thinking we have more time than we really do. And I'll clarify why you're wrong, in a loving way. It's because, so let's say that they say yes, and you're like, cool, appointment, I'll come out same day. You go out, you shake hands, you sign paperwork.
They have crafted it.
Now what? They have crap to do. Declutter, photos are next week, we lost a week. That's 2% of the year. Right? Like that, it just like didn't even, nothing happened. All that they had to do was like clean up, right? Put the toys away, and 2% of the year vanished in that period of time. Then the pictures happen, then they go live. How long is market time right now? 30-ish days, right? So now it's a week plus 30 days. Now we're 37 days in of market time, and then we go pending. And now how long does it take to get the paycheck from pending date? Assuming nothing goes catastrophically wrong. Another 30 days. So right there was a 70-day life cycle. And that's kind of just thinking in a good scenario, right? And so the reason I have 66% is because that is taking us on a 10-month cycle and saying we are at the 8th month of a 10-month cycle, give or take. I took it by the days. So you essentially, you're at like 63%, 64% right now. But you want to have all of your 2024 business accounted for going into December 1st at the latest. Okay? All right. That was our reality check.
So I'm a little more behind than I thought.
Uh-oh. Like 5%. Oh, no, probably a little bit worse. And here's the other reality. That's like the business stuff. And I love to talk about volume. I love to talk about units, by the way. Units lead volume. I would much rather you win in unit count than volume. Much rather, because that is a much greater indication of your ability to generate business. Now, there's a caveat there, which is that generating higher GCI units is a great way to increase your bottom line without doing more work, but the leading indicator of success is always gonna be units. Okay, if you seek growing your business volume first, it is a really, really treacherous journey. Because you can be lulled into thinking that you're doing better than you are. You slip by 2 or 3 units when you're counting on $20,000 GCI deals, like really big deals, and all of a sudden you're $60,000 off. That hurts, right? So, some units, some goals to think about, right? Revenue. Like, we were talking, Drew and I were talking about, the different models, and I'm gonna show you the models. Again, you have stellar leadership here, so hopefully everybody can tell me what the models are when we get to it. But GCI is one thing, but what's your revenue, right? And honestly, so GCI, gross commission income, right? So like what are you bringing in from a total perspective of revenue, which by the way, the word revenue I used on purpose as opposed to just GCI, because do you have other businesses? Like we just had Jim and Jennifer, right, talking about business banking. Do you have a rental property? Is that revenue going into the business of Drew LLC? Right? So what's your revenue goal? GCI plus affiliated businesses or whatever it is you want to do. What's your net profit?
Which I was just gonna say, is there a reason why you don't focus on net profit versus revenue?
So revenue leads net profit, right? Revenue minus expenses is gonna get you to your net number, but absolutely. But the driver of net profit, my coach told me something years ago that has stuck with me to this day. She said, you cannot save your way to success. And I was like, oh. You can earn your way and then save and keep more. But you've got to earn the revenue first. So totally, right? And there's the profit first. You can go all the different directions in terms of like, how do you arrive at that? How do you protect your bottom line? Totally, to improve your net profit. But the reason I didn't do that is because, like, you could, yeah, you absolutely should actually have net profit as a goal for the year, right? But I put revenue as a leading indicator. Closed units, I just talked about that, right? Like, and thinking about that kind of intentionally, it's like, well, what is the makeup of closed units? Are we talking buy sides? Are we talking sell sides? Are we being really intentional about that breakdown? And we're gonna do an economic model in a little bit where we separate out listing side versus buyer side. And I'm gonna lay the hammer down on you that you're probably underworking the existing opportunities in your inventory right now. If you are not 2xing your listings, meaning for every listing, you get an additional 2 pieces of business, you're probably underworking your existing listing inventory. And I would challenge that there's business in this building that you could go get right now. Any other quantitative goals? Any new initiatives, like, right, like maybe I wanna, was it you that asked about new construction? Okay, so maybe I wanna have an initiative where I get a relationship with a builder or an investor, and I wanna start that, right? So like, what's the lead domino of that, right? So now you meet with a banker, now you have a banking relationship, so then when you go out and you have that sit down for coffee, you can actually add value as opposed to just being there to be like, hey, can I get some business, right? So like, what are the leading indicators that would tell you that your new initiatives are off to a start? Did you have any goals for 2024 of something that you had never done before? When was the last time, by the way? When was the last time you did something for the very first time that you've never done? What's it? You are right now. What is it? Real estate. Never done it. What was day one? Still here.
Got day one yet.
Yeah, he's pretty green,
He's new.
Good. You're in the right room.
but he's showing up for all the things, so.
That's right.
I love it.
That's good.
I'm meeting with financial planners and the attorneys. I'm trying to get this to try to build relationships and start referring clients that should be like getting estates and wills and trusts and stuff and trying to refer them so that they'll refer me.
I love that. I love that. So anybody skydive this year? You have. Why?
Why?
Yeah.
The adrenaline of it all.
That's cool. How did it feel?
Amazing, can't wait to go again.
How did it feel on the ground getting into the plane?
The ground was fine up until the plane landed.
Up until, really?
I was fine the entire time until the plane got there and each of the instructors started going to, because it was tandem.
Yeah,
Then all of a sudden my nerves went crazy
okay.
and I needed to know his entire life story in like 30 seconds before we got on the plane together.
How did you feel at the moment where like the door is
When it
open
flagged
and you're like, right, and you're just, how did you feel at that moment right then?
It was the most terrifying yet exhilarating moment of my life simultaneously.
And then you landed.
And then I had to put my head out.
Well, there's that part.
There's that. And then I landed.
And how was it?
Phenomenal.
And you said you can't wait to do it again.
Can't wait to do it again.
So I just want you to think about like,
Yeah.
On the tail end of COVID, I have a bucket list. And one of the things on my bucket list was like, I wanted to, have an amateur MMA fight.
Fun.
Is it?
It's not on my list.
It depends on how it goes,
Oh,
probably.
you win.
And so, the most scary thing I think I've done in the last 4 years, 5 years, was walking into the MMA gym on day one. It was like, am I gonna throw up? I did. Like, is it gonna, is it gonna hurt? It does,
Yeah.
right? Like, all the things, but walking in was the hardest thing. Walking in was the hardest thing. Like, sitting in my car, you're like, what am I doing? And then like walking in and I don't know anybody, right? So I want you to think about that, because as you're thinking now, mid-year, have you done something that will matter in 5 years this year? Right? Have you done something that will matter in 5 years? And just thinking and being honest with yourself about that, like, have you made this year memorable yet? Because if you're just doing the stuff, And by the way, you can win the year quantitatively and it be completely forgettable in 5 years. So. See, I told you I'd make you feel a certain way. And that's what leads me to this slide. Because everybody told me what their goals were. Everybody told me what their goals were from a revenue and unit perspective. And it's almost like I knew you wouldn't tell me your personal goals. But nobody did. So where are you with your personal goals? What?
I just met mine, and like right on time, one day before the deadline.
Done.
Yes.
That's awesome. How else are we doing? What kind of personal goals did you set? And if it was like, I wanna hit X weight goal or whatever, you don't have to tell us exactly what it was, but like, what kind of personal goals did you set coming into this year?
This was a personal.
This is it, right?
20-year goal.
20-year goal. How will you know that you made the right decision on this goal? How will you make this goal count?
Good question. I gotta think about that.
Okay. Because like, that's one of the traps of goals. Like. You made it. Now what?
Now what? Yeah, exactly.
Like you made it. Did you? What was the real goal? What was the real reason that you did the work to get here? What's the reason you showed up today?
Grow, improve, learn,
How will you know you've done better?
success in 5 years.
Okay. So that question, by the way, that I asked. One of the things that happens to goals is they die in vagueness. They die in a lack of clarity. And I want you to think about your goals. And by the way, nobody volunteered their personal goals the way they did. I'm 3% off on revenue, but I'm not gonna talk about where I am with my personal goals.
I'll share one.
What's that?
So it's kind of business related, but it feels very personal because it makes me very uncomfortable.
I love that.
So I've been working on like putting myself out there more as a team leader with like branding myself. I did like a whole branding photo shoot. And then they came to my office and they shot a bunch of reels and I actually had no idea that's what we were doing that day. So I was not dressed for it, if you know what I'm saying. And they've just been posting them for me. So literally, like, I don't even know when they're going out. It's just being posted and I just have to be okay with it. And some days I like want to puke. I'm so nervous
I love that.
when I see the video go out there. So for me, it feels very personal because I am not used to putting my face out there. Like I would always take pictures of objects and write a post, but I very rarely post even selfies of myself.
Yeah.
So it's taking me personal growth to do the business activity, if that makes sense.
100%. Because you have to change as a person,
Yes.
right? Like literally change as a person in order to be willing to do the things that you ordinarily wouldn't have done. By the way, if you were gonna do them, you would have done them already,
Right.
right? Like when you're on a journey that involves growth or change, it literally, like you have to ask yourself, why haven't I done this yet? Right? Does that make sense? If it's like we'll talk weight, we'll talk health, okay, like we all know where the shoe store is to buy running shoes. What's the difference between the day that you don't go and run and the day that you do go and run? It has nothing to do with what it's like I said, the information highway makes everything super easy. We can all get to the things. We all know what to do. It's not like a secret. Diet and exercise for health, right? We're not talking that works for
Right.
you, by the way. But the diet and exercise, but we don't all hit the same health targets, right? I would just be honest, I didn't. I was just talking about that with Drew. Like I ate 8,000 calories of ice cream last week, right?
Because she's going first. She's
Yeah.
putting herself out there and she's inspiring. Like, if she's doing it, then we all do it.
Bravery is contagious.
Cool.
Bravery is contagious. And that's one of the reasons why, so I look at accountability and I said, it becomes weaponized, right? Because when we don't like what we're getting and we're like, I'm gonna hold you accountable. Does anybody have a negative connotation of the word accountability?
Yeah.
Okay, all right, but like, what you just described was inspiration. What if accountability was inspiration? What if it's like she makes that post, you feel a certain way and you're telling me, because you didn't do that difficult thing in your world? That's accountability too. It's just a whole different vibe. Okay, so when we're talking, like, we haven't even talked about buying and selling houses yet. You guys notice that? What's that?
I said it's good.
Okay, thank you. So, but like, that's, when we're talking about that, when we're talking about like, for you, if you can just look at this and just say like, where are you on the 6 personal perspectives? Find out what that is, right? So committing to self-mastery of whatever, or personal branding. And by the way, before you do any of those things, you gotta ask yourself, like, why am I doing this? Which goes back to the question I asked you earlier, which is, like, what are you gonna do on the days you don't wanna do it? Because there are absolutely gonna be days, probably yesterday, where Brittany didn't wanna do it. And you have to ask yourself, what am I willing to do on those days?
Or how does it make me feel? How did I feel yesterday when I did it versus today
That's
when I
right.
didn't?
That's right.
Oh, I love that.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. You see what starts to happen? The dialogue, by the way, I'll share with you why I was attracted to MMA. Because it's a you versus you conversation. I got to my goal, which was after throwing up to get to 3 rounds, right? A 3-round sparring fight. I was like, okay, that was really hard. And right around that same time, I was taking the chief learning officer role, a lot more travel and a lot tougher hours. And I couldn't make it to the same classes that I was like addicted to, that I wouldn't miss for anything by the time I made it to that point. And I sort of fell off. I was like, all right, now I cycle, which is not as cool at all. But so I bought a bicycle and I ride. And guess what happens on the trail when you're at 14.9 miles an hour and you just created this like imaginary number in your head where anything under 15 is sucking? It's still you versus you, right? So you need to be thinking about your goals from a perspective of, in the you versus you dialogue that's happening at 4:59 a.m. at 4:59 p.m. Who's winning? Which you are you gonna listen to? Why are you gonna listen to that you? Why does that you even matter? Okay. So to talk about Brittany, right? Like, she was very honest about the discomfort. She, by the way, stating your goals out loud creates a higher level of accountability. So writing them down is one thing, stating them in front of however many people is a whole nother thing, right? And to your point, or to the conversation there, now she's inspiring you, which creates, so one of the pillars of influence, Robert Cialdini wrote the book.
Whether your
and he,
record show it was
anybody
deactivated,
heard
it was
Jeremy
not.
Weiner?
I've been using it. And so then the question becomes, how do I activate it?
I love it.
Oh, no, that's awesome. That's awesome.
He's really good, but he's kind of. But anyway, he teaches he teaches something called NEPQ, which is neuro emotional program questioning, which is in the sales world pretty high level. And his professor was Robert Cialdini, who wrote this book, Influence, also wrote the book Persuasion. And Cialdini did all this research to figure out what the pillars of influence were. What creates influence in humans? And one of the pillars is reciprocity. And so when you see somebody doing something, and especially if they do it for or to you, you feel a desire to do it back. And you will be highly influenced by people who you have likeness with or have community with, which, by the way, you are in the same room, so now you have likeness and community. So she's influencing you. So now you have a responsibility. You owe it back to her through reciprocity to be accountable to your goals. Humans are interesting. Any other comments or questions on personal goals? We're like, just because I've been past the slide, they don't go away. we're gonna talk about it. Any questions? Cool. We're gonna talk about your value. We're gonna deviate from goal setting for a moment because I wanna challenge you to think bigger and differently about what your business will stand for. Because, again, having seen goals come and go, be lost in the wind, we hit the end of the year, it's like. I want you to change your frame of reference. We're gonna do it in relation to your business. We're going to do it so that you think about the future you that's doing something that current you has never thought of before. So we're going to talk about what your value proposition is. We're gonna attach that then to a bigger business. Okay, everybody on board?
Mhm.
All right, first question. Everybody have pen and paper?
Yes.
Or note tab? I'm always the guy that's like typing into the phone and he's like, hey, he's ignoring, and it's like a note tab that's like this long. What makes you world class? Yeah, it's a right answer to that.
Oh.
Okay. He had the question written very well. What makes you world class?
Good job, Richard.
I love hearing that sound, by the way. Feel free to do that sound whenever. Makes me know you're thinking.
I'm a very vocal person.
What makes you world class? So as you write that, if anybody like has a thought that they want to share, or something that came to them as you pondered on that question, I'd love to hear. Just one share, two shares would be fine. What makes you world class?
Well, since you picked on me.
Yeah.
So, my name is Rich, by the way. I'm visiting, I'm with Team Pete, but we'll see.
Welcome.
Thank you. For now.
And front row, by the way.
And
I'll show y'all up.
That's bravery.
Uh-huh.
teacher's pad.
And I picked on him. She didn't tell me that.
I wouldn't feel welcome if I didn't get picked. It's okay. So I think one thing that makes me world-class is, the ability to overcome adversities. I've probably been through more than my fair share of them, even here lately, but, I think that's can be a very difficult thing, especially if it's physical problems, stuff like that, things that you feel like maybe out of your control. But then you do what you can do, no matter what it is, to overcome that problem.
That's your book.
Which,
Great.
We're gonna give everybody a book by the end of this.
oh, okay.
I love it.
What?
Please do. It's so good.
That book's for you. Great. I wrote it under the intro section. Okay, so. Because that, by the way, anybody think that's a superpower?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So like, that was the second question, but when you're thinking like, what makes you world class, it kind of forces you into this place where you're like, what am I freaking awesome at, right? Anybody think that when the going gets tough on a goal or something that he's committed to, that he has an edge over somebody who will quit on themselves faster,
Totally true.
right? Game changer. Where are you gonna apply it? You don't have to answer that. Just think about that. Okay? Anybody else have a, he set the bar high. Anybody else want to go on what makes you world class?
I can go.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I know I see some familiar faces in the room. My name's Chris Radulus with Team Fleet Realty. This is my 6th year in the business. I do about 40 units a year.
Sweet.
Love what I do. And I think what kind of separates, thank you, appreciate it. I think what kind of separates and really makes me special is I'm relationship based. So the relationship through the transaction really means, you know, the world to me in terms of making sure that I'm facilitating that, you know, from start to finish and then afterwards too.
Awesome.
And with integrity and with accuracy, because it could be very, real estate could be very technical. And sometimes the technical side of it, you know, can cloud the end goal. And at the end of the day, it's people. And when you operate your business, for me, what's worked for me well is really focusing on the relationships and making sure that somebody has that great experience with me while not sacrificing anything in terms of accuracy, value prop, integrity.
Well, you're getting your book.
Yeah.
Your book is.
What is it?
Your book's the experience.
Nice, thank you.
It's about the Disney experience.
And the passion for the career too. I think you have to, I think there's a clear separation between the real estate professionals in our industry that are really passionate about what they do and how they run and operate and goal set and converse and, you know, engage with their colleagues as well.
You're gonna crush it on the second bullet point,
Great.
right? Cause so we're gonna move down to that, but like, by the way, it is really great.
Thank you. Yeah.
Or you can do the gold standard, which is about Ritz-Carlton. Either way, it's about customer experience. Because again, thinking, where do you world class it? If it's connecting and engaging with your customers and providing an extraordinary experience, just to kind of summarize what you just said. And like, you think about that, like, what's the 10x version of that? When you reading?
10x is easier than 2x.
And I said, it's okay. But what's the 10x version of customer experience? Right? So an exercise we're not gonna do today, but that is extremely cool to do, is the 10-star experience exercise. And essentially what they did this at Airbnb. I'm gonna bunny trail for like 2 seconds, but it's like the coolest exercise. All right. What they did at Airbnb, how did Airbnb start?
Internet.
Yes, the internet, but
You guys in Oregon?
kind of, yeah.
That started.
So it's like couch surfing, air mattresses. Okay, not like the cool Airbnb of now where you can book, you know, on the water in Tampa, like, it was like, you can have the couch, sorry about the cat, right? And on their journey to grow the company, they did this exercise, and I heard this on a book. So this book, not a very good book, I'm not even gonna say it, but on the book, in between the chapters, they would interview people who inspired the chapter. And that's where the gold was on this book, because they interviewed one of the founders of Airbnb. And he was talking about, the book's about scaling your business. Again, not a great book, not a great too. But he's talking about on their journey of scale, they did the 10-star experience exercise. And what they did was they said, okay, cool, what's a 1-star experience for an Airbnb person? And it was like, show up, doors locked, like text somebody, they let you in, you get a couch. Sorry about the cat, right? What's 2-star? And they took it to 2, 3, 4, and 5. So at 5-star, and if you think about it, what's a hotel that runs at a 5-star level? I just gave it under the experience. The Ritz, right?
Yeah.
Okay, well, what do you expect when you go to the Ritz?
Top notch.
Top notch, not Holiday Inn Express, right? We're talking the Ritz. Holiday Inn Express, a good one is a 3-star, right? So they took it to 5-star. And they said, well, what would a 5-star Airbnb experience look like? And they like described it. It was like, you go in, you have the whole house to yourself. There's a bottle of wine. There's a little list of all the local restaurants. By the way, before any of that was being done, before the term superhost even existed, they did this exercise.
So good.
Okay, then they were like, let's break it. If there were no limits to money, time, or resources, what would a 6-star look like? And they were like, I don't know, a limo would pick you up, right, at the airport and drive you to the location. And they went all the way to 10-star. 10-star was like, there was a parade that brought you to the. Right, like your flights chartered, like, and
Air Force One, where you have.
right, yeah, literally it was like chartered flights and all this other stuff. This is a cool bunny trail, right? Because what I want you to think about is, if that's your world-class level talent or your superpower skill, how do you 10-star that? How do you 10x that? And right, like for you, like 10x in grit is just like, I don't know, David Goggins, right? Like, sorry. I don't want you to 10X that, I want you to apply that. But like, if you're thinking about that, right, it's like, cool. Like, first of all, be super committed, like die on the hill of customer experience then, if that's what you're gonna do, right?
So good.
And then thinking about like, what does the 10X 10-star version look like? And for you, I'm gonna tell you, I've taught this in enough real estate specific rooms to hear that answer more times than great. So your water is much murkier than his water.
Yeah.
There are more people swimming in your pool than his pool.
Yeah.
There are a lot more people that will quit than will say that they get good customer experience. So what are you gonna do to 10X it? And so the Airbnb 10-star, like that exercise, do it as a team. If you have like a little team or whatever, like do it as a team, sit down, be like, okay, what's a 1-star? It'll be fun, I promise. When you get to 6, 7, and 8, if you find things that you could do them. Because that is where you'll separate yourself from the very full pool to the very empty pool. Okay,
Good, thank you.
yeah.
I love this experience.
By the way,
I never heard of it.
did you know that Airbnb then launched Airbnb, they did Airbnb experiences or Airbnb, like, they started to do trip booking and use things from the 6 and 7 stars that they never, when they were doing couches, never thought in a million years they would do.
That's so good. Open your mind, right?
Okay, so I gave you a tease of what was coming. What would your customers say about you after working with you? And don't just say one thing, I connected with them. No. Don't just say that, go deep. What would they say after working with you? Stop wearing a watch, that's. That's so much time.
Why can you that?
Why? Because I was like looking at it too much. Notification everywhere. But now I don't know what time it is, so that's fine.
I got you.
But I separated this exercise from something we're gonna do later, because I want you to have a little bit of time, if you stew on any of the answers and come back to them. Just go ahead down to the third bullet point, that's what do you offer that is unique to you? It might be related to, it could be different than your superpower, like what I do that's world class is customer experience, what do I offer that's unique to me is every client gets a such, tote bag, but something to that effect. So I want you to think about what's unique to you, what's your superpower, or I'm sorry, what is world class that you do well, and then what is something that you do uniquely? Those are two separate things, by the way. I want you to stew on that, like I said, for the next like 20-ish minutes, okay? And we're gonna go talk about, hard pivot. You can come back to the other stuff. All the soft squishy things. All right, again, not saying that you need to show off, but your TL's in the room.
No
What are the
pressure.
4 models.
From MREA?
Yeah, yep.
Economic budget.
Your budget model.
Lead gen,
Lead generation is a model of itself.
organizational.
See how happy she was? She was so proud. All right. I'm not that smart. Elbow, ELBO. You'll all get it now. Elbow, economic lead gen budget organization. Got it?
Copy.
No excuses. Next team meeting, Brittany.
What's the W? The winning model.
Brittany, next team meeting, like.
Yeah, I'm gonna do it. I got it.
You better quiz them. You can't quiz them on the Y4C2Ts because they're. They're on the wall. Economic lead gen budget organization. So economic model, let me put it to you this way. Your economic model is your car. Your economic model is your car. The economic model tells you fundamentally what your business needs to look like to achieve your goals. So we're talking about goals, right? And we're gonna talk about, like, your economic model starts with gross profit. Okay, if that's the case, then what happens is it tells you what your business needs to look like. Your lead gen model is the fuel. There's a quote in the MREA that I'm gonna paraphrase, but it essentially says, until you have more leads than you need for your business, there's nothing else to worry about. Okay, so. But your economic model tells you how many leads you need. It tells you how much business you need to do to achieve the money goals. So you start with your gross profit. I did this, I was like toying with, there's like a JPEG I could have pulled offline that like showed it from the book. But like, I want you to be, you could apply that. The crazy thing, by the way, I've built businesses within our investment organization. In fact, to be honest with you, we use the economic model to build our investment organization. Because the fundamentals of building a business plan apply across whatever. It doesn't matter if you're selling homes or widgets. You know what your gross profit goal is, you know what every widget gives you, you just happen to widget houses, and you know how many of those, what your conversion rates are as you go through the sales funnel. Understanding sales operations at some basic level gives you a massive advantage to knowing what work you need to do. Otherwise, you're just working like you're just churning your little wheels, right? So this is I gave an example of $100,000 over on that side, but this is gonna tell you what the fundamentals of your business need to look like, right? And I'm not gonna actually, I don't know if I need to spend a lot more time. Like, you guys have a fairly decent EQ to an economic model, and I know that because you know how many units you wanna have, you know about how much volume you wanna have. You can figure that out, right? So, by the way, gross profit's gonna be related to your volume number. Unit's gonna be determined based on average commission per deal. Sell a more expensive house, average commission per deal goes up, right? So when I talked about that, that's what I'm referring to. The reason I told you that the trap exists, right, is because if that slips and you are low on units, you can't recover. Does that make sense? If you crush it at units and the market goes up or the market goes down, you are way more stable and safe. Okay? So the economic model tells you that. It literally tells you that. Because the difference of low unit, high volume, and like, it's always funny to watch. I don't know, Brittany gets as frazzled as I do, like looking at the regional board. It's like, we recruited a mega team and they sold $14 million with 19 units. I was like, what? Like, 2 houses a month? I'm not judging, but I'm a little judging, right? Like, you don't have to have a great business to do 19 units a month. And if you sell 14 units next year, your business is gonna hurt because you're gonna be down like almost $4 million, right? 100 grand off. Ugh. Anyway,
It's funny.
so that's why I harp on that.
No,
Okay, all right. Any questions on the economic model? We're gonna come back to the other three models in a second, but like right now, you can mid-year, 66% of the way through, you can say like, where am I? If you didn't do this going into 2024, you can ask yourself like, all right, cool. If I was to go back in time to November of 2023 and do this for this year, what would I have aimed as my goal? Maybe you're in what we call E, moving from E to P, right? Maybe you're in E, which is entrepreneurial, and you haven't moved to purposeful in your business. Entrepreneurial is, I work hard, I have hustle, grind mentality, but I have none of the other two things there, or three, or four things. Systems, models, accountability, right? I don't have any of that, I don't plan, but I hustle, right? That's E. So if you've been living in E and haven't moved to purposeful, no time like the present. Build an economic model. Understand what your business is going to look like. By the way, in real estate, the dangerous thing is you all forget that you are business owners. Net worth of $3 million. Like if you walk into Jim, if you walk into Jim's office And, or Jennifer, and Jennifer's like, well, I wanna know the story, I wanna know the relationship. Okay, cool. Do you have it? Do you know what your story is? Of your business? Just saying. Cause like. Real estate's one of the craziest businesses in the world. You can make a stupid amount of money in this industry. And be a complete dumpster fire. It's true.
It's totally true. It's totally true.
It's totally true. Right? Like. Great news for us, right? Cause like. The barrier of getting to some level of financial success is actually fairly low. Like, I mean, like, we all have the same playing field. We all, like, we're all living in the same market. We can do whatever we wanna do. But that's also the trap, right? Cause it lets you have really crappy bad habits, poor financial skills, poor business skills, poor, that's why I'm harping on like Phil Jones, poor basic sales skills. Basic sales skills. If you're not putting that into your repertoire, you are completely underpreparing your business. If you were gonna walk into, I don't know, the Ritz and they didn't have the fundamentals, they didn't have the concierge, they didn't have the front desk because they weren't running a full business plan, what would you think? You're like, this is trash. But if you run your real estate business the same way, then you don't get to judge anybody else. Okay, so the example there. Like I said, I just went through the math. $100,000 gross profit goal. If you said my average commission for a deal is 5,000, I would tell you need to close 20 units. I used a 50-50 split of listing versus buyers. This is where we're gonna talk about that for a second. So 50-50 split of listing versus buyers means 10 listings closed. What are the 3 L's?
Listings need some leverage.
Leverage.
She writes, she said, listing, lead and leverage.
Leads, listing, leverage.
Whoa.
Yeah, I mean,
What do you got?
You didn't say I needed to be in the. I agree. Drew, I didn't know it was in the right order.
Leads, listings, leverage.
Correct.
Right? And so it's not leads, buyers, leverage. It's not. Like NAR policy aside, I literally like, you could go out, generate listings all day, every day and build a crazy awesome business. And there's a place for buyers, agents, there's a place for buyers, working with buyers. But the reality is you can do the math on time and dollar per time, return on investment and listings return way better. Plus, at the end of the day, you have physical collateral to sell when you're selling a listing. And that's where I'm gonna challenge you, that if you're not 2xing the amount of units you're doing based on your listing count, you're completely underserving your business. You're actually underserving your sellers and you're underserving yourself and your bottom line later. Because, again, our widget factory sells real estate. Well, what is real estate? It's houses or multifamilies or whatever, right? It's physical property. But if you are not in control of the fiduciary relationship of the physical property. Sorry. If you're not in control of the fiduciary, if you're not in control of the ability to leverage it, that's that third L, right? If you're not in control of that, you are missing the opportunity to create exponential business. Which is, if you get a listing, and I'll give you one freebie that you can walk out today and do. On your next listing appointment, I don't care if you get the listing. You walk out of the front door of the listing appointment and you knock on the 10 nearest houses. That moment, you're there. You're already at work. Go knock on the 10 nearest houses. Hey, I was just over at Chris's house and I'm actually a local real estate agent and I'm not sure if he's gonna list or not. Maybe he did sign, maybe he didn't, right? Hey, I'm not sure if he's gonna list or not, but I was actually blown away as I was here in the neighborhood. And I will tell you that if he does decide to list, we're gonna have a ton of activity based on this location. And I was just curious, who do you know that might be looking to buy or sell? Immediate opportunity to create leverage, whether you get the listing or not. But you can do the same thing with buyers, but you don't have the collateral to use. You don't have the bait. Fundamentally, right, any sales funnel is gonna serve some version of this, where there's bait at the top and fulfillment at the bottom, and then there's like a journey in the middle. That's what you guys crushed, right? So bait at the top. One of the reasons why we've been devalued as real estate agents is that somebody, an intermediary, has gotten in the way of our bait. Who are they? Zillow, right? So Zillow said, cool, you guys did the work to get us this. We're just gonna attach the fishing hook to our line. And we're going to interrupt the sales funnel. Fundamentally, that's what happened. So you have the bait when you have the listing. If you want to use like whatever online sources or whatever you want to do, you can do that, but like you've got the thing. Don't just rely on Zillow or whatever else to drive that traffic through. You need to figure that out. That's when like and it gets the kind of fundamental stuff like just listed postcards or some of the other simple things, door knocking, right? Because like the digital space is very murky. There's a lot of competition out there. And if you don't have great PPC or SEO or whatever, then you're going to be competing against the people who are using your bait for their hook. But I would challenge you that there are ways to do it, and you should have an action plan that's attached to every listing that has 5 or 6 places where you have an opportunity to generate a piece of business. Minimum. And if you haven't ever thought that way, start today. Your economic model will tell you that. Your economic model will tell you that if you generate the listings and then create exponential business off of it, you'll work less hard for more money. All right. Is that a new concept or like, is that helpful?
Yeah.
Super helpful.
Okay. So we're in the home stretch of the year. I already gave you the bad news that you have 45 less days than you thought you did. And right now you need to think about where is your pipeline? Who uses a pipeline of any kind? It could be in a CRM, it could be on a Google Sheet. I don't care. Okay, what does your pipeline look like? What are the features of it?
3 buckets, hot, warm, and cool,
Yeah.
based off of need, timeline. My hot's like first 90 days, so if I think someone's gonna settle within 90 days, or like a hot bucket lead, so.
Awesome.
If I'm actively showing them properties, have a contract signed with them, or I suspect that they're gonna settle within 3 months, they're in the hot bucket.
Awesome.
My warm bucket's 3 months to 12 months, so anybody that's kind of in that bucket gets a different level of outreach, follow-up, attention, in terms of not day-to-day, more kind of, bi-weekly, and then some direct mail, stuff like that, and then my cool bucket's anything a year later.
Okay. I like a lot of that. I'm gonna challenge you and level you up like this. So your pipeline should represent a very accurate picture of your future revenue. Very accurate. And one of the problems is, again, like I said, vagueness is where goals go to die.
Yeah.
So what is 90 days from today? It's August, just call it August. So September 1st, October 1st, November 1st, right? You have 15 more days after that. So pretty much your hot pipeline is the rest of your year's revenue. It's actually too vague. And I would challenge you that you need to look at the leading indicator of your bucket. So the leading indicator, because you're looking at their timeline, right? I'm gonna challenge you that you need a corresponding action attached to that pipeline. So your goal is that they are signing an agreement.
Yeah.
Within 30 days. Figure out what that date is. I'm not telling you specifically where to go with that. I would challenge you to get something that you can take action on in a more decisive way, because 90 days, and Brittany probably knows this all too well, and that she's extremely disciplined about her lead generation time blocks. If you sit down and the activity that you've assigned yourself for that block is too vague, how effective are you?
Not at all.
None at all,
You
right?
start searching reports and
Yeah.
like scrolling through names and you're like, I don't even know what this list is.
But if I tell you that these 7 names I'm committed that these 7 names are going under an agreement in the next 30 days, it gives you way more precision on that and gives you a lot more predictability on the back end. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So your pipeline, so I've given you a little bit of an equation here to figure out what your pipeline could look like. You take your listing taking goal for your year, again, mid-year, and you identify the last date to take a 2024 listing that will sell in 2024. Last date, best case scenario is November 15th. Realistically, right? Like that would be 30 days of market time, takes you to December. Like 15th, maybe, and maybe get it closed. That would maybe be if you took a super hot, great price listing and the market time was 8 days, you definitely get it done, right? But actually a mid-level motivation, mid-level price, like not super hot, it's actually not even November 15th. Probably like November 1st, October 15th, right? So now, now I just made the bad news worse, I'm sorry. Now you need to take the number of weeks that are remaining and then figure out how many listings you need to take per week. That dictates the way you're gonna treat your pipeline. Not that so the reality is your pipeline, who uses a CRM? We all have command, right? But like, who uses whatever, right?
Y'all
So-
look lucky Adrian is on vacation. She would be so
I'm
sad.
not judging. I don't care I don't care if your CRM is a Google Sheet. I've seen incredibly good businesses run off of Google Sheets. It's whatever you're willing to use,
Fair statement.
but command is also. But the reality is that your CRM is, what does CRM stand for?
Customer relationship management.
Yes. One of you do that.
She was the one who yawned 5 minutes ago.
I know, yeah, you had to make up for that, 'cause I was stung up here. It's customer relationship management. So be really, like, pretend like you're like my 9-year-old who asks why and says no and all these other things, right? Like, fundamentally, it's like, what is a customer relationship management for? It's to help you manage your relationships. So if your pipeline and or CRM are not serving you and telling you how to treat your customers, if you are in servitude of it, it's backwards. And so your pipeline / CRM should be educating you on exactly what you need to do today, tomorrow, this week, this month, in order to treat your customers the way they want to be treated in order to do the business at the pace that they're asking for. It literally should educate you on what you need to be doing. So your pipeline, when you do this and you analyze where you stand, and you figure out how many listings you need to take per week, and then you go and you look at your CRM and you're like, cool, I need 19 more listings between now and November 1st, and you go to your CRM and your hot bucket, which should be everything that wants to close in the next 90 days, and you go and there's 11. Now what? What's your gap? That's right. So your pipeline now educated you on the gap that you have of top of funnel leads. Does that make sense? Anybody not follow what I just did? I figured out what the gap was on listings specifically. I figured out, like you said, where I need to go outside of what I already have accounted for and figure it out. And by the way, your pipeline's not gonna close at 100%. So then you have to back out the 85% attrition. That's not gonna do what you thought they were gonna do. It's not bad news, it's just reality. Like I said, today's just a reality check. Is that helpful to think about that?
Yes.
Okay, is anybody using their pipeline the way that I just described it?
No, not yet.
You can do it tomorrow. You can go tomorrow and say, all right, if I look at this and I ask this, what I need to do today to manage the relationships of my customers, which is literally what CRM means, would it tell me everything I need? And if the answer is no, then go in, fix your buckets, because your buckets are probably jacked to begin with. Like, not to pick on you, yours is like, again, light years ahead of the person who's using a Google Sheet. But like, if it's not telling you what to do in the next day or week, then it's not specific enough. And the problem then is that the gap will not be, it will be partly your bank account, but also the customer's experience. So as good as you think your customer's experience is, if you have a great customer relationship, again, coaching you specifically, if you have a great customer relationship and you say, hey, ideal scenario, when would you like to be moving? And they say, I'd really like to be moving in November. And you say, great, if you want to be moving in November and average market time is 30 days and average time to get us to the closing table is 40 days, then we probably need to be looking in, I don't know, end of August going into September. So we need to make sure that your loan's pre-approved. So now you have all of these markers that you can put into your CRM that tell you I need to be getting them pre-approved in August. I need to be starting the home search and going. Now you have a ton of clarity. So to Brittany's point, like when you sit down at your computer and you're just looking at this like pipeline, you're like, I don't know, I'll just pull a report. Now it's like, I need to call Mr. Smith. He needs to be getting pre-approved this week. I know exactly what to do. Does that change everything?
Yes.
Okay.
I want to add, because I think Chris is on the right track.
For
What
sure.
what I'm hearing him say sounds maybe not like the pipeline buckets that you're describing. but more like the database touch plan labels.
Mhm.
So it's still giving you, okay, now that you've worked your pipeline and you gotta go drum up more leads. What are you gonna do with the ones in the hot versus the ones in the lukewarm and then the cold? Like, that's what it reminded me of, was like labeling A, B, C.
Totally. So we
Yeah.
get that, again, that's another bunny trail. But one of the first things I had to do as a chief sales, when I took the chief sales officer role, was we were in 2 CRMs. Our database has 100,000 names.
Great. I love that.
We literally have bought at some
Okay.
point all of the
Thank you.
names, addresses, and phone numbers of everybody in York, Cumberland, Dauphin, Lancaster, and Adams counties. I have all the leads, quote unquote, I just am not communicating with them properly, ultimately is what that meant, right? And so and in fact, we were rebuying them. We're like, we already have all these names in the database, and we'd like go out, spend $125,000 a month in marketing dollars to generate the exact same phone number, email address, and name that was already in my database from a year and a half ago, when they called and said they were thinking about it. It's like, what?
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
About buying names and addresses. What would you do if you purchased name and addresses of people who never contacted?
Talk to them.
How, like, how would you, like, would you call them, would you see yourself as a local realtor? So this is, I bought a whole community. Like,
Why?
cause essentially, I was looking for one specific house, but they wouldn't sell me just the address, so I ended up having to buy the home.
Mhm.
So, would you, and now I have like an entire community's data.
Mhm.
So, originally I said maybe I'll start like emailing them. But then I'm like, you don't know me, so like, how do you break in without seeming spammy?
So.
Like,
That,
before I.
that's like a very nuanced answer.
Because I can put them in a touch plan, right? Like, we have them, but that first contact, before I'm I'm like afraid to like seem spammy. So like,
How many data points did you buy?
I have about 400 emails, phone numbers of an entire community. It's about 400 houses.
Okay, so you need to think, book shift talks about this a lot. You need to be thinking about your method and your message. So the method is, how are you gonna talk to them? Because you could do all three of those. The message is, what are you gonna say that's compelling, that creates connectivity? We're gonna talk about dating for a second. You walked into a bar and there's 400 people.
Normally I wouldn't speak to any of them, so that's why I'm struggling.
You'd be on Hinge, swiping quietly in the corner, not talking to anyone.
I don't know, like, my personality.
Okay.
I wouldn't get yeah, either.
We gotta figure that out. Okay, so bear with me on the dating. This is gonna be mind blowing. So you walked into the 400 person bar. That's where you are, okay? And you want to get married.
I can't relate because I kind of been married for a very long time, but okay.
Well, hang with me. Hang with me. You want to get married. That's a closing. You can't walk up to the first person at the bar and be like, hey, you have great blue eyes.
Right.
What are you doing in June of next year? Hey, what size is your ring?
That's essentially why I haven't reached out, because I don't wanna, I don't wanna.
he's saying, what could you say?
Right.
So I'm gonna rewind you a little bit. So
So initially, right, I thought about sending out an introduction, hey, this is who I am,
Mhm.
but like consumer facing me.
Yeah.
I find that to be spammy, so I don't want that either.
So watch what that looks like at the bar. Hi, I'm Joe. I work in real estate. I absolutely love to work with customers, and I like to help people who want to sell and maybe want to buy. And I've been living in this area for a super long time. And you're gonna be like,
Wah, wah, wah.
Is that your Damaris voice right there?
what? No. This is I did talk a little fast. Your goal is to have conversations. Number one. The number one mission, tomorrow morning, I want you to wake up with an absolutely unwavering commitment to create as many two-way conversations with those 400 people as you possibly can. Your next goal after that, the next domino after that is first dates.
But my issue is how do I break into that first conversation with the person? That's what I'm struggling with, like,
What's your name?
Damaris.
Damaris.
So do I? But would you, if you had this, would you do that as a phone call, or would you do it as an email?
I don't know. What do you prefer?
I think I'll do something.
Right, obviously, I wanna do it, but I'm just like,
Take action.
Get over it, Damaris, talk to them.
so I'll tell you what I thought, and then you.
What do you, those three things, call, text, email, what do you prefer?
So, my preferred communication is text message.
Why?
Because that's just the generation I'm a part of. However, I mean, if somebody is providing a service that I don't know, I'm gonna consider it spam. So I'm not gonna reply. So this is how I'm thinking about it. So I don't wanna text. So then I'm thinking, should I call? And then I'm like, would I want a stranger call me? I don't, so I'm not gonna.
So bad.
That's why I'm struggling. This is how my mind is thinking. That's why I haven't made a move. So this is what I was thinking about doing. I was thinking about doing a bomb video
No, I can't.
and introducing myself. The other piece of this is I live in the neighborhood.
Oh, even better.
Oh, my gosh.
I got three, you can have them both. So I didn't take it back.
Food truck. I saw it drive. Food truck.
That just got really interesting.
But I am doing the food truck in September. I live in the neighborhood.
But you're not gonna talk to anybody, so why are you doing that?
I love her so much.
Or you have more, you have dogs or not?
Well, I do, but my dog is not safe
That was
anymore.
good.
You can borrow mine.
All right, so
Brutus would love it. You're painful.
I'm gonna tell you,
He's really good.
I literally don't care.
Oh, that's good.
I don't care about the reasons why you don't wanna do it. I don't care about what you're afraid of.
But would you call like a
Yeah.
stranger?
Why not?
And say, hey,
That's the business you're.
Sort of, but like, again, this goes back, you need to craft a compelling message that makes some, because like, what I said earlier was you need to have quality two-way conversations. If you don't have a compelling reason, that, and you don't yet, I haven't heard one
no,
yet.
I don't.
Well, then you need to figure out what that is,
Yeah.
because I'm not signing up for that conversation.
Right.
Absolutely.
Right? And so if it's like, if there's some level of value that you can deliver to them, or some, people are attracted to curiosity. When you are curious and you are, when you care about what, so Phil Jones, again, super fan, he says that empathy is caring about what the people you care about care about. When you create an empathetic and curious relationship, that is extremely attractive to the other person. So what you might think as being like spammy would be unidirectional communication that's you to them that makes them feel left out. But when you call them and you say, hey, I'm your neighbor and I am actually in real estate and I am calling all of the neighbors in my community here to learn how long you've been in the community and what your timeline might be to make a move, because I'm trying to get some demographics together for some research I'm doing for home sale.
Or-
For home.
Super passionate about my community
Right.
and.
There are
So-
4,000 questions you could
So
ask.
that would say that I am I said that wrong. Those 400 people, there's about 600 people in my community. Those 400, I kind of communicating with about 200. So those are the ones that I'm trying to.
There's no try. And what I just said, literally, like, how long have you owned the data?
Just recently,
Okay.
I was trying to get a physical essentially, and I wanted to. buy
I
it.
love the
That's
attention.
why,
I
so
love
I
it.
had to buy the whole,
Yep.
they wouldn't skip trace the address.
Perfect. You need to take what Jocko Willink calls violent execution. I need you to do something tomorrow. Call 10 people and be like, I'm doing research, I'm a local real estate agent, I'm actually gonna be having a food truck come to the community. And I have 3 options of food options, and I was just trying to get a feel for things. And then when they say mac and cheese, because everybody's gonna want mac and cheese, whatever, right? Then you say, awesome, hey, just out of curiosity, I was kind of getting a gauge also of like how long you've been in the community. Oh, you've been in the neighborhood for 7 years, great. blah, blah, blah. Now you're on your, now you are still not having a first date, but you're talking at the bar and you're not talking about you, you're talking about them, which is what they care about way more than you.
I was.
Tomorrow.
I was gonna
Tomorrow.
walk the neighborhood
Tomorrow,
with the invite
no, way too complicated. Tomorrow, any of that. Any of that,
on the phone.
on the phone, text messaging.
Well,
Although,
I wouldn't do the text, cause there's a lot of older people, so I think.
call them, great,
the phone-
talk me out of it,
yeah,
call,
yeah,
call them,
no,
yep,
the phone, it either have to be phone or in person,
call,
cause there's a lot of older people
Just
might
call.
be leaving, they're not gonna touch your
call.
phone.
You'll get more done in a phone call.
Yeah.
Yep, all right, cool. Alright. Okay, we're gonna do this exercise in 5 minutes, buckle up. This is from the one thing. This is a fantastic exercise to do because it's the whole person. And in the book, The One Thing, they talk about the 7 circles of life. And if you've ever heard Gary speak about this, he basically talks about that. There's these seven circles, they could be, think of it like juggling, right? And at any given time, you can be juggling these 7 balls, and some of them are glass and some of them are rubber. I would argue my daughter is glass, never want to drop that ball, right? But my physical health might be rubber, where I might have a season where I go to the beach and eat 8,000 calories worth of ice cream, but come back and maybe get back on the bike, right? So what I want you to do is I want you to write down these 7 topics, and I know it's small, I pulled it from a PDF or JPEG. And I want you to rate yourself in these 7 circles. So what you're doing now is like, this is your reality of your current, where you are, August 6th, 7th? 6th, August 6th. And you're gonna give yourself a grade of 1 to 10. The first one is spiritual life. Now, here's what I would recommend you do, is do this in a list and do the grade, because then we're gonna do something different. So rate yourself on a scale of 1 to 10. So number 1 is spiritual life. Where are you? 1 to 10. Number 2 is physical health. Number 3 is personal life. So, personal life is you, for the record. I heard Jay answer some questions about this, because people were like unsatisfied that they 7 circles didn't cover everything. Personal life might be like your mental health, your skill development, it's you, your personal life. Because number 4 is key relationships, which is gonna be those that are your loved ones closest to you. So, giving you 1 to 4, catch up where we are. Spiritual life, physical health, personal life, key relationships. And grade yourself 1 to 10. Next is job. So we're gonna speak a little philosophically. Your job is your day-to-day tasks, where like you might have a job of being a realtor. You might have a job of leading a team. Your business, which is the next one, could be Drew Richmond LLC, where you might have a business that involves investing or other services that you might do, or your total business health, business life. So job and then business. And grade yourself 1 to 10. And last but not least is finances. You guys okay if we go to like 145 and then just have like a quick 15-minute reset? Okay. So we're back up. So that was finances. So in the book, the one thing I recommend. The question that's in the middle is, what's the one thing I can do such that by doing it, everything else will be easier or unnecessary? And that's a focusing question of the one thing. And what they challenge is, like, if you ask that question for each of those circles, you'll start to figure out what you could do that would put attention or make that circle better. But what I first want you to do is the second thing here is I want you to order them from 1 to 7. So you just graded yourself. Now I want you to order them in importance to you. So maybe spiritual life for you is like, just, it's not as important to you as your key relationships Or maybe your personal life is way more important to you than building a bigger business. You're cool with like the business the way it is, you don't wanna own anything else, you're okay with that.
Wait, what do we do about the things we don't care that much about?
They get ranked lower. So ranking them right now, in order of importance. So number one is the most important. Number two is the next under important, down to 7.
Oh.
I'm very judgy.
Oh,
So first was rating them,
yep.
how good
And
are you?
now we're rating.
Now we're ranking them,
Now we're right.
yes,
Got it.
sorry. I was trying to go quick, so.
No, what it is.
It's tough. It's tough. So as you finish this question here, what do you see? You see?
The things that are important to me are the things that I score highest on so far.
Sure.
That feels good to me.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's cool.
I second that.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's funny.
Why is that funny?
It's just so obvious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's great when it works smoothly like that. There might be quiet people in the room who are not in that boat.
Mhm.
Yeah, mine's not that way.
Yeah. And then what happens is you start to be able to shine a light on the places where you may have a ball that you're treating like rubber that shouldn't be, right? Because now you've been honest with yourself about your current rating of it or your grade of it versus how actually important it should be to you. When you're in alignment, it's great, right? That's a good thing. But if you find yourself getting out of alignment, which happens in life, right? Then this exercise gives you a chance to say, time out, where am I right now? Am I in alignment? Is it smooth or is it not smooth?
Yeah.
So.
It also is explaining to me why I'm putting off doing some of the things that I know I should do, because they're like number 6 and number 7 in my priority list.
Yeah.
Right.
But the ones that I maybe wouldn't tell myself realistically are my more important ones, are the ones that I have 8s in and that 1, 2, 3, 4.
There you go. That's cool. So it's a great exercise. I would recommend doing this quarterly.
Just to say, this is a great one during the clarity break.
Yep, just to revisit and just do it. It doesn't take, we did it in 4 or 5 minutes. You can journal on this, by the way, like this is one of those where you can take yourself down a really deep rabbit hole, right? Like journaling, because what you might find, so no judgment,
The journal.
0 judgment in what I'm about to say. You might be ranking something low because you're not giving yourself permission to try to be excellent in it.
Mm. Ooh, that's deep.
Repeat that again.
You might be ranking yourself lower in something because you're not giving yourself permission to be excellent in it. So you're like, I mean, physical health isn't that important. But you're not holding yourself accountable.
Yeah.
Right? So. Everything was going so smoothly until I said that, right? But so that's also where you start to uncover some of that stuff. Okay? Good exercise. Now here's where you can take that and be intentional. So we're probably not gonna have time to like blow this out of proportion and like really take it to the maximum level. I like simplicity. I am not that smart. I use Google Sheets, don't judge me, to run businesses, okay? I want it to be dummy proof for the rest of the year. So take a look at your 7 circles and take a look at the ones where your rating's not that great or where you're you figured out really fast by doing that exercise that you have an opportunity to do something different, okay? I did delete July last night, I was finishing this. You have 5 months that are blank slates, blank canvas. I want to challenge you to have a skill that you work on or an activity that you do in each of the months that allows you to either raise the grade that you've given or put you in a place where you never, like, where you were not headed prior to today. So skills to develop or activities to do. What are you gonna learn? And we've already hit 4 books. I can give you more. Like, how do you learn skills? You hear somebody that you've never heard before, you read something you've never read before. Or you try something that you've never done, like, right? So, I would argue that, skydiving is an activity. But like learning to be a jump master would be a skill, right? I would argue that, a trip would be an experience that would go under activity. Learning the language would be the skill. Okay. So, when I was in MAPS, we had to do this for the entire year. We were graded on it we had, coaches got coached by a coaching coach. And this was what we got graded on every month.
You said coach a lot.
Yeah. I think I got them all in there. So, yeah, so we were coached and we were held accountable to that, right? It was our growth, because like their completely valid statement was, how do you earn the right to pour into other people if you're not growing your lid? So that's where I learned this, and I think it's a complete game changer. It's intentional growth. You have 10 things you can do. So go back to the question that I asked earlier. When was the last time you did something you've never done before? Is there a chance to do something here? Is there a chance to learn something? Read a book again. So like, and we default to books. Again, I've given you a bunch and I'm a book nerd myself, but it's also like, maybe it's going to a class, like KW, like if there's a skill that you want to learn, I've now probably sold you on Phil Jones, and if I haven't, you'll be sold by 3. And then like, maybe you're like, okay, cool, I want to get better at that language stuff that Joe's talking about. And then you look online, it's like, oh, cool, like Phil's either a speaker or he's doing like the, language of real estate class or whatever. And like, maybe you hop onto a class. Maybe you blow your mind and you go to something completely outside of this ecosystem that really takes you to an uncomfortable place.
I would take it to Maggie, if anybody wants it.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
I
Take it to
would-
mega camp.
Yeah,
You could go in 5 days. Phil Jones will speak there. Yeah.
I was just gonna say, like, that's why we promote a lot of those classes, because we know that it's gonna make you a little uncomfortable, but in that uncomfortableness is where growth happens.
Yes.
And to be around so many other top agents like at Mega Camp, you're gonna learn things that you can't get from a book. And everybody in this room knows I love to read, but there's just some things you can't get from a book. And I've always loved, like when John Maxwell says, the only way you could do what I do is you have to do what I did.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing. So who do you want to emulate your business after? You have to do the activities they did to get to that level. of success.
Absolutely. Totally love that. And again, like, it's like taking you to that uncomfortable place outside of our ecosystem. Like, you can sign up for the master classes. They pop up on Facebook. Anybody ever see those ads? Like Chris Voss, he wrote the book, Never Split the Difference,
So great.
right? Like, he has a master class.
That's a good point.
Right?
Or like, I know Drew's gone too, but like, and I think John, you've gone like Global Leadership Summit. It's not KW, but it's an incredible course that comes around every summer, I think soon.
Yesterday, actually.
Oh my
It popped
goodness.
up on my memories.
Yes. But that's a great one.
Yeah, I mean, it could be like Dave Ramsey, maybe, and again, there are a lot of people in real estate that have an extremely unhealthy relationship with finances, and it is not talked about enough. And maybe it's that you need to increase your financial literacy, maybe it's Dave Ramsey, maybe, whatever. I'm like, maybe it's reading Psychology of Money and going to a Dave Ramsey seminar or whatever. I'm not emotionally attached to whatever you decide, but don't be the same person in January that you are today. Okay?
I mean, Joe with the one-liners tonight.
Good job.
All right. So I like, just to give you a couple gives at the end here, because we're definitely towards the tail end of time. Oh, look, I stole that slide from my secret. The one thing.com spelled that way. And I brought something along. It's definitely not fancy, so I shouldn't have even said it that way. I brought along the Kick-Ass Guide to Goal Setting. Has anybody ever heard of or used it?
Never heard of it.
Great, well, I have 10 copies, so you can fight over them.
Hunger Game style. Let's go.
The Kick-Ass Guide to Goal Setting is it's this little sleeper PDF that lives on the onething.com. And it takes you from your sort of long-term visionary thinking and gets you all the way down to a 411 in a 10-page or 14-page PDF. And I printed a couple copies, but we have these resources. These people are in, I mean, we're lucky Jay Papazon is in the KW ecosystem and also happen to write the one thing. But like, we have these tools. I would have bored the crap out of you if I just taught you how to run a GPS today. But now that we've done the thinking part, which is by far the hardest part of goal setting, by far the hardest part. Now you can start to apply that stuff, right? So the GPS is a tool. And again, in August is not the time to write it for this year, but it is something where now you're going into next year. Maybe you do the growth plan. Then maybe in November, you start to journal out what you want your GPS to look like. And by 2025, you're absolutely ready to kick butt. Your GPS, goals, priorities, and strategies, which again, you know, I look here and I'm like, oh, cool. I'm glad I didn't bore you with all this stuff because you're already having those conversations, right? We're talking about 411, which is the accountability tool. Basically taking the GPS, put it on side, attach dates to it. That's a 411. And we have all these. So I have, again, those 10 copies. You're welcome to take those. And this is sort of moving you towards the end of the year. And I wanted to give you some things you could, like easy lift things you could do today that would get you from August till December and have you thinking about the fact that you have way less time than you think you do. And also some longer term things like this that will equip you going into the next season of goal setting. So I think that's about it. Any questions, anything you heard us talk about that we skipped really quick through or you want to hear more about? I'd like. EPS stands for again? Goals. EPS stands for goals, priorities, and strategies. So one thing for the year is your goal, priority number 1 to achieve it, and then the 5 strategies. So the old KW language was, they called it a 1-3-5. It can be called that because it's 1 goal, 3 priorities, 5 strategies. Yeah. To me, this is one of the most abused tools we have because people approach it from a very tactical perspective. They write things just to write them and they completely don't mean anything to them and they forget them in no time. So just be really careful. Don't ask yourself the question I was at. I think one of the most grounding questions you can ask is, what am I willing to do with this when I don't want to do anything? Because that answer will educate you way more than what could I do? Because you will never do what you could do. You will always do what you're willing to do. There's your other one. I don't know. I just read too much.
So
So
good.
these are all other people's words. Any other questions? I want to hear like 3 or 4 ahas and then we'll pivot. I'll get myself ready. Couple ahas. Yeah.
Easy way to improve customer experience is improve your CRM.
There you go. Yeah. That'll make you a lot of money. That aha will make a lot of money. Who else?
Bravery is contagious.
There you go.
That's my goal.
And I think really focusing on what are you willing to do? Because I'm a bad person, I'm putting stuff on the GPS that I know damn well I'm not gonna do. So why am I doing this?
Yeah, like who are you trying to impress? You're the only one.
I know,
Right? I'm just as
don't know
guilty.
what
I'm
to do.
saying that as just as guilty.
But I'm not,
Yeah.
and I know I'm not going to, so stop it.
Yeah.
All right. Any others?
I'm gonna do something new every month.
You'll be busy.
Don't be the same person in January as you are today.
Yeah.
Yeah, that gets me.
That hurt a little.
Skydiving's in my things I'm gonna try at some point in my life.
And you're gonna call.
Do you want?
You're having 10 conversations.
Got 400 people.
Can I say a confession?
Yes.
If you don't want to follow, send me the link.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think we'll knock on some door.
I'll follow
tomorrow.
I-
I don't even care.
Never done.
Let's work on that.
I've never done it.
You don't have to cold call. There are other options, but you just asked me what to do with
Could be
it.
a one.
Wait, no, I'm sure I have to figure it out, but I've never done it.
Send mail.
I'm fine walking.
Tell you what, you don't have to cold call a single person if you can write a piece of direct mail that's compelling enough to make it.
Yeah, like I'm fine with that.
Or you could just send a direct mail piece and then call them.
And then call, make sure they got it. Yep. All right, we're at 1:49 and I gotta do another hour and 2 minutes.